Hellblade 2 is a story about those that suffer and their capacity for immeasurable good and the constant struggle against the darkness within. It is one of the most visually stunning games ever created. It has pitch-perfect acting, the directing never fails, but it does fail whenever you have to experience it as a video game. The game does a great job right off the bat of catching you up with what happened in the original. Basically, a Germanic woman suffers from psychosis, possibly schizophrenia, which she inherited from her mother. Her father, an objectively very evil man, hated her daughter, Senua, for these voices in her head known as Furies. Northmen come to the village and kill everyone, including the man she loves, so Senua goes to find them, gets her revenge, and kills a god in hell. In Hellblade 2, the Furies are a constant stream of consciousness of at least two different voices, sometimes more, bellowing back and forth into different ears of your headphones for pretty much the entire game. That is interspersed with a demon specter voice of darkness and shadow, which seems to be the memory of her father. Now, the story of Hellblade 2 picks up where the first one left off and has Senua saving slaves that were taken from her village, fighting giants, and trying to stop the rot of evil from infecting more souls. Each major giant is both a physical threat along with a psychological one that calls for Senua's unique skills and actually uses her background of psychosis. It really is an incredibly told story with these really strong themes that every monster was once a man and the moral implication of destroying these monsters. More than that, the story really lands beautifully. The ending is just phenomenal. It confirms the notion that real morality is always about what your next choice is and how being good or evil really is that simple. It's not the contents of your character and the actions you've done, it's what you're going to do next. This is supported by, like I said, one of the most beautiful looking games ever made. It looks like a photorealistic movie set in Iceland. The landscapes, the enemies, the combat system is incredible. It's a simple tic-tac-toe sort of dynamic, but it leads to these blockbuster style battles that are always changing even when you get killed, which I didn't expect. You won't get the same thing, and it really makes you feel like you're playing in a Norse movie. It's done so well. The acting is superb. There's real direction here with the camera maybe being more cinematic than any video game I've played before. There's real intention behind it. Anyways, all of this seems like it should be an easy 10 out of 10. It's doing something different. They're talking about mental health. This should work. But this game originally was being criticized for being only 9 hours long. And honestly, after going through it over the weekend, I feel like it needs to be cut in half. There is so much unnecessary bloat with overcomplicated puzzles where Senua is basically by herself with only her Furies yelling at her that easily eat up 3 to 4 hours of poorly implemented platforming. That is just such a different gameplay experience to when you're battling the giants and everything is clicking. Worse than that, though, the Furies. They're always nattering, they're very important to the story, and oftentimes it works. It feeds into her psychosis and are different voices that provide a unique perspective. But when it doesn't, they aren't these really interesting implementations of mental illness. They're poorly implemented narrative exposition horns. So instead of seeing in a great blockbuster characters react and change, and once again we have real mocap actors doing phenomenal jobs here, we have, instead of that real narrative being built, these are voices telling us exactly which each character is feeling at all times and likely what is going to happen in the plot next. Other games that have done these internalized monologues really well, I hate to bring it up, but I always do. Disco Elysium comes to mind, where the voices were a little more opaque and less like a quest mechanism and more like a personal reflection of the character. Moreover, very basic video game things do not work in this game. The unbelievable amount of invisible walls when there's no real exploration in this game, despite the fact that set pieces look like it should allow it. They're beautifully done. You couple that with 35 different collectibles that are very difficult to find and require you to navigate this on-the-rails world in a way that it's just not designed for. It hurts the experience. Now, this may seem like nitpicking, but I cannot express how much better this game would be if it was 4 hours less, get rid of the collectibles, get them out of here, edit a few of these lines, and maybe cut down some of the linear pathwaying. In its current state today, Hellblade 2 doesn't actually benefit from being a video game and allowing us to interact with it. If you can't get those basics working perfectly, everything else suffers. So for everything else that makes it great, these fundamental building blocks don't work. And for me, that's a cardinal sin. If it doesn't work well as a video game, who really cares about the other stuff? You should check it out. It's a story worth seeing, but maybe watch it on YouTube.